So the NFL really does operate on a month-to-month basis. If you look at 2023, in January you had the NFL playoffs, in February you had the Super Bowl, and now we have come upon March. And whenever you think NFL and March, you immediately think of free agency. And at this moment right now, there are certain things that teams can do. Teams can basically restructure their own players. They can franchise tag their own guys. They can give current players that they have on their roster brand new deals, or they can also cut players. That's kind of the different moves that teams can make right now. They're not able to actually sign off anybody on other teams just yet. When you look at the NFL calendar, on Monday, March 13th, that's the day when legal tampering begins. And that's the day where you hear about contracts coming into fruition. And then March 15th, 2 days after that, is when those deals can become official. So on March 13, you're going to see Rappaport, Adam Schefter, all these guys reporting different stuff. And the actual team's Twitter accounts aren't going to say anything until March 15th. But, a lot of times, boom, that what is it, 12 o'clock or something, that moment hits. And then all of a sudden it really opens up the floodgates. And, there's all of a sudden deals going over like crazy. Like it's pretty clear that a lot of these teams get stuff done before then, but it just doesn't become official until a certain date. But that's a conversation for another time. Now, on this day, the Jags are usually known to be very active, or at least they have been very active. 1 year ago in 2022 free agency, the Jaguars spent an NFL record in free agency, $260 million given out to new free agents. 150 million of that was guaranteed money. I mean, they were spending money like crazy, getting guys like Christian Kirk, Brandon Sheriff, Foye Oluokun, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. And did those signings work out? Well, I don't think we would have been in the NFL playoffs had they not worked out. A lot of times teams can go out and spend a bunch of money, and it's fun and exciting, but sometimes that's not always the best thing to do. But the Jaguars really did cash in. I mean, the Jaguars made the playoffs, when you look at it from a roster standpoint, because Trevor Lawrence is playing good football, and pretty much because of the 2022 free agency class and the 2021 draft class. I mean, those different things really propelled the Jaguars, to make that playoff push, win the AFC South, win a playoff game before getting bounced by the Chiefs in the divisional round. So, yes, a lot of money spent. Now, the Jaguars going into this offseason, they were over the cap. They had to make some moves to really get under the cap. And the Jaguars did a few new things. They gave Roy Robertson Harris a brand new deal, which I haven't seen the terms of the new deal, but it did lower the cap number for the Jaguars because he was a pretty big cap hit. I think it was like $11 million. Some more guys that went through restructurings are Foye Oluokun, Christian Kirk, Brandon Sheriff, Zay Jones. Hey, I just mentioned these guys. A bunch of our free agents from last year did go on to restructure their contracts. And between all of those different moves that a Jags made, they saved about $40 to $45 million against the cap. So, a lot of good savings there. A lot of these guys, they get giving a lot of their base salary and signing bonus up front, and they're able to kind of stretch out that cap hit number. So that's pretty good stuff that really Shad Khan is able to work that out, because Shad Khan is the guy that dishes out the money. And yeah. So now some more moves the Jaguars can make. I mean, they can still cut Chad Griffin. That's going to save them about $11 million. There's still different minor roster management moves they can make. It's just all about, will they make them? We'll see. Now, what will the Jaguars actually do in free agency? Now, according to at James Palmer TV on Twitter, he's a pretty prominent NFL account. On February 28th, he tweeted out, quote, "The Jaguars have already finished their work on free agent evaluations and don't expect them to be active, if at all. They are focused on their own free agents. There is a good amount of confidence right now. Something will be worked out to bring back tight end Evan Ingram." So, yeah, like I said, I mean, the Jaguars don't sound like they're going to be big spenders. The big reason is because they really can't. They can't go out and spend all the money like they did last year. Luckily, it's not a great free agent class, so it's not like the Jaguars are really missing out on a whole lot. But yeah, the Jaguars right now, we have a lot of good talent in-house, and we're probably not even going to be able to keep it all. Right now, the big two free agents for the Jaguars are Evan Ingram and Jawan Taylor. And it seems like right now there's just a much greater chance that tight end Evan Ingram is going to be back over Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor is going to command a lot of money in free agency. A lot of these teams need offensive linemen, and when you look at this offense, you have 11 starters, and 5 of those guys are offensive linemen. So every week you have 180 different starting offensive linemen. So it's just such a big need, and Jawan Taylor is the guy that's healthy. He's very good. He did very good last year, and he's a plug and play tackle for a team. And right now the Jaguars might not be able to afford him. If the Jaguars do keep him, then he's probably leaving some money on the table elsewhere. But hopefully the hometown discount, or maybe or even the appeal of no state income tax, maybe that'll help him stay. But we'll see. So now some free agency predictions I'll go through. If the Jaguars were to spend some money, I have a list of a couple guys we'll kind of see about. Now, we'll take a step back, man. Let's take a step back. The Jaguars already made a huge free agent move, and this free agent move basically came in November 1st, and it wasn't a free agency move. It was more of a trade. The Jaguars went ahead and traded for All-Pro wide receiver Calvin Ridley for a conditional 5th rounder and a conventional 4th rounder that could turn into a 2nd rounder next year. That was the big move that the Jaguars made. And, when you look at Calvin Ridley, he's a former All-Pro. He had, in his first 3 years in the NFL, he had 217 receptions for 3,061 yards, also 26 touchdowns over the course of the first 3 years of his career. So just a very good football player, and he's going to really, really help out the Jaguars offense. And he does come with a pretty high cap hit because he's playing on his 5th-year option. I believe it's about $11 million. So when you talk about big upgrades to the Jaguars roster, we can't go into talking about different veterans that we can bring on a team without mentioning that, look, the Jaguars already have Calvin Ridley, who that's pretty exciting. Now, a list of guys that I have, number one target is our own guy, Evan Ingram. Now, this one seems like it's a virtual certainty that it gets done. There's even been people out there saying that it's either going to end in a long-term deal or a franchise tag. And even when you hear Evan Ingram talking, he sounds pretty confident that he's coming back. And, it makes sense that he wants to come back. Look, the marriage between Evan Ingram and the Jaguars last year was a very good combination. Last year, he had career high numbers, 73 receptions for 766 yards. He was 4th in receiving yards of all tight ends in the NFL last year, so he did good stuff there. He set franchise records for a tight end in a single season in both receptions and receiving yards. Look, the Jaguars, we've tried to find tight ends all the time, and we just never been able to find them. And we got a guy with Evan Ingram where, look, he's a player that was productive in our offense, and he also fits a big position of need. Look, right now, the only tight end the Jaguars have on their roster from last year is Luke Farrell, our 4th tight end, as Dan Arnold and Chris Manhurst both enter free agency. So, this not only brings back and retains a good player, but it's also a big position of need. And we know Doug Peterson loves his tight ends, and there was a good connection between him and Trevor Lawrence. So yeah, Evan Ingram, that's a number one free agent I'm looking at. Now, some more. You have Dalvin Tomlinson, who's an interior defensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, every team wants him. He fits a huge need for the Jaguars interior defensive line. And particularly, he's a dual threat guy. He can stop the run, but he's also a pass rusher. The Jaguars this offseason, they're going to have to find ways to, bring guys in that can create pressure in the interior. Because, look, the Jaguars pass rush just wasn't great last year. And, we had to really start looking at the number one pick in the 2022 NFL draft, Trayvon Walker. Look, there's hopes that you drafted this guy because he's going to develop into a great elite pass rusher. Because look, he was the number one pick in the draft. Trent Baalke and the Jaguars looked at this guy and said, this man is the best player in this entire draft. And the Jaguars drafted this guy because of his traits. They didn't draft this guy because he rushed the passer really well in college. They drafted him based on traits. Now, that's all well and dandy, but at the end of the day, the Jaguars drafted the guy number one overall that's never rushed the passer, and they drafted him to rush the passer. So I'm definitely in wait and see mode, but if he can really develop, then that's going to open things up for Josh Allen. That's going to hopefully do some better things on the interior defensive line, and just everything does better when you have a real disruptor like that. So, but Dalvin Tomlinson, like I said, man, he's an interior defensive lineman, dual threat guy, rushes the passer really well. Maybe the Jaguars, if they were to spend some money, maybe they go after a guy like him, but we'll just have to see. Now, number 3 would be Troy Hill. He's a cornerback out of Los Angeles. He's a little bit older. He's an older vet. He's like 31 years old right now. But, the Rams right now are going through a fire. Actually, I don't know if they are, but they might be. It's looking like they might try to go through a little bit of a mini rebuild as, look, trading away all these draft picks is kind of catching up to them. And I think they're going to try to maybe refresh that core a little bit. But, yeah, Troy Hill, he's a guy that he played with Darius Williams out here. The Jaguars do have a need at cornerback. It feels like the Jaguars will draft a cornerback. That's probably the route that they're going to go. But look, if they want to kind of maybe explore it in free agency, maybe that's the guy that they bring in. But I don't know. I don't have too many free agent targets because, like I said, man, I really want to target our own guys because, there's some guys right now that are in free agency that maybe the Jaguars try to keep. I mean, Dwan Smoot, maybe the Jaguars get him on the low because he's coming off of a torn Achilles. You also have Arden Key, who's a pretty good player, pass rusher. So, there's plenty of moves that, look, there's in-house moves that the Jaguars can make, maybe to go out and do it. We'll just have to see. So, yeah, Jaguars free agency. Let me know what you think. Did I miss anybody? Is there anybody that you might go after and target? Just let me know. And with all that said, thanks for watching. I'll be on Bleacher Report Thursday, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So go download the app and catch me over there. This is I'll be talking about a lot of this over there tomorrow. This is kind of a good little practice run for me. Trying to I got to fill out 30 minutes. So this one needs to be a little bit longer. So we'll see. But thanks guys so much for watching. Go Jags.